It is 12:59. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. The NFL coaching cycle is almost complete. It is as far as head coaches are concerned, but still more coordinator hires to be made. Ian Rappaport reporting this morning, Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy could officially be named the new OC in Washington today, and that would likely mean Matt Nagy is elevated in Kansas City. Big college basketball weekend in the SEC and in Tennessee. The Vols headed up to Kentucky on Saturday, a noon tip at Rupp Arena. You can hear the Vol Network call right here on The Zone. Vanderbilt looks to keep their hot streak going. They've won 4 in a row, hosting Auburn at Memorial Gym. That's a 7:30 tip. And a big MVC matchup for the Belmont Bruins, a 3 p.m. tip-off Sunday at Drake. Bridgestone Arena will be rocking again on Saturdays. The Preds continue their homestand, trying to break out of a slump. A 5-0 loss to Boston last night. They'll host the Florida Panthers tomorrow, a 1 p.m. puck drop. And college baseball season gets underway tonight. The number 2 Vols are in Arizona, taking on Arizona, a 7 p.m. first pitch. And number 10 Vanderbilt taking on TCU from Arlington. That game coming up in just 2 hours. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone. Let's have ourselves a Friday. Blaine and Mickey on 104.5 The Zone. Lucas Panzica in for the great Mickey Ryan this afternoon alongside the hitman Blaine Bishop. Brett Batchelor been running the controls. NFL coaching cycle is complete as far as head coaches are concerned, but still some more coordinator hires to be made. And it looks like one big name is about to get his offensive coordinator job that people will argue whether or not it's a lateral move, but his name did come up for the Titans job, Blaine, and Eric Bieniemy. Happy Friday, by the way.
Oh, yes, happy Friday. Oh, yeah, Eric Bieniemy. Well, I don't know how do you look at it any other way than it's a lateral move. Maybe I'll have more control and it could be his offense because we don't know how much he was calling plays and how much Andy Reid was calling plays, but yeah, the connect there is Ron Rivera, when I was there with the Philadelphia Eagles and Andy Reid was the head coach, was the linebackers coach at the time. So I'm sure Andy has put in a good word for him if that's the case and if he gets the job. But there was somebody else interviewed for it too just a couple of days. Was that Roman? Who was it?
Greg Roman.
Right, Roman. So
yeah, Roman's been cycled around as well since parting ways with the Ravens.
So, hey, I hope he's happy. I didn't realize that his contract is actually up, Eric Bieniemy. Yeah, his contract is up.
Yeah.
So if he doesn't get this gig, he may be out there. So I wonder what happens then. So, or he could go back to KC and then kind of keep everybody in the same spots. But I'm sure Nagy's going to be the OC if he leaves for sure. So,
well, it looks like that's all but a done deal, according to Ian Rappaport, and be a full circle moment for Matt Nagy over there in Kansas City. Was the offensive coordinator, hired away to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears, obviously fired in Chicago, comes back to KC, and looks like he'll be next in line to retake that job.
But he was the offensive coordinator, right, for Kansas City?
Yeah, before he got hired in Chicago.
Right. He wasn't calling plays.
Right.
He got a head coach job.
Right. So that's the great debate in Kansas City, right? Who's actually calling the plays?
To me, that becomes a debate because that's what the national media has made the narrative. The debate should be, why hasn't he got a job? Because there's been multiple people, not just as Kansas City. There's been offensive coordinators, even quarterbacks coaches who've gotten head coaching jobs. Some special teams coach. So that should be the debate, not if he is actually calling plays or not, because there's been examples time and time again that you don't have to call plays to get a head coach job. So I just think that's the narrative for whatever reason. I have no idea if Eric Bieniemy is a great interview or not. All I can do is look at Andy Reid's tree, and everybody who's left his tree has done pretty well. So, done halfway decent. Some back with him, like you're mentioning Nagy, but as well as Spags, who was a head coach of St. Louis, who didn't do so well there. But as a DC with the Giants and then currently with the Kansas City Chiefs, he's done a really good job. So he had a heck of a staff, and that tree is huge. There's Leslie Frazier. McDermott was the assistant linebackers coach on that staff. Leslie Frazier, Brad Childress. Cully, that was fired with the Texans, was the wide receivers coach. I think Juan Castillo was the O-line coach, Ron Rivera. Let's go. Harbaugh was the special teams coach, and he was then got a head coach job with the Ravens.
You mentioned Brad Childress, Steve Spagnuolo. The more you talk about that staff you played for in Philly.
Yeah, it was. That's why I said we were 13-3. I mean, but they act like the world was going to end there.
Yeah.
13-3.
But future head coaches all over the place. Andy Reid has got to, at this point, have the most extensive coaching tree in the league, right? Next to, like, Bill Belichick.
Yeah. One thing that stands out to me, and I'm probably off a little bit, I'm just guessing, I feel like most of Bill Belichick's guys haven't had success as head coaches. I would say Andy Reid's guys have had a little more success. And when I say that, I mean their tenure was longer. Not necessarily everybody. Once you get hired as a coach, you know you're going to get fired. So that's just the nature of the business, whatever position you are coaching or a head coach. So that's the only thing, because I think there's a narrative with Bill Belichick and his coach staff. Most of those guys don't have success as head coaches, and I think it's because they're trying to be Bill Belichick instead of putting your own flavor in who you are and your personality when you become the head coach. You can't duplicate Bill Belichick. Here's why. You don't have the rings behind your name. So now instantly that garners respect. And you're not going to get away with some of the things that Bill Belichick probably does with his players, because the respect is already there because he's won. And so actually people want to go there and play there so they can get a ring, and then actually then they get paid probably somewhere else. So I think that's the mistakes they've made. Like Josh McDaniels still hasn't had success yet to me.
No.
You would think he would, though.
Yeah.
I mean, man, I'm like, man, this is a no-brainer. When he got to that, nope. And it took him a while to get another shot. I think that was more on him than anything else, and trying to grow as a coach. And I'm hoping he has success. But, you could say Flores had a little bit of success, but at the end of the day,
Matt Patricia, the way that went in Detroit,
that was absolutely horrible.
You can't count Vrabel in this, right? I mean, he's a former player of Belichick's, and there may be influences there, but he never worked for Bill Belichick.
He never worked for Bill Belichick. So I don't consider him a Bill Belichick guy. Now, you can say you learned a lot as a player when you played with him for a very long time and had championships, but he didn't coach him, and he's not part of that tree. So I don't put Vrabel in there.
Brian Daboll, at this point, what he did with the Giants this year was the offensive coordinator for the Patriots.
And Saban, too, as well as OC. And Belichick and Saban are really tight.
His coaching tree in the college ranks is probably more impressive. Kirk Ferentz worked for Bill Belichick. Nick Saban worked for Bill Belichick. Brett Bielema, who obviously didn't work out at Arkansas, but has had great success in the Big Ten, worked for Bill Belichick. Right. But as far as the biggest names go, like the coordinators, Matt Patricia and Josh, the guys
what was the guy, the coach that went to Notre Dame, and then now he's out.
Charlie Weiss.
Charlie Weiss,
yeah.
He didn't do well either.
Had one good season at Notre Dame, and that ended. That was very ugly.
He hit him over the head with a lot of loot, though.
Yeah, that's a good point. They were paying him a while after they fired him in 2009. Bill O'Brien, part of the Bill Belichick coaching tree with a
little bit of success. He won. Well, he won the AFC South a couple times.
Yeah.
So you could say, I mean, if you want to give it, he had somewhat success, and now he's kind of rehabbing, trying to come back to life, right?
So Eric Bieniemy, who of course was brought up for the Titans job, appears to be the guy, the offensive coordinator in Washington.
Who he turned down the interview, right? Is that what we understand with Bieniemy? He never acknowledged it.
We don't know that he ever interviewed with the Titans.
No. We do know that he never interviewed with the Titans.
Yeah, there's no evidence that he ever that he interviewed with the Tennessee. All we know is that there was a request.
Right, exactly.
That is it. If you want to join the conversation, 615-737-1045. Hang out with us on Zone TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Emmett in the YouTube chat says, Bill Walsh, greatest coaching tree of all time.
Oh, yeah. Now that is, yes, that's all over the place. Yeah, that was back in the late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s. Yes, he definitely had a heck of a tree. Yeah. And they all had success. Became head coaches, too. Yeah.
Nick Sirianni's coaching tree started to sprout this offseason. Emmett asked, who called the Eagles plays? So Eagles offensive coordinator Shane Steichen takes over in Indianapolis.
Right, that's my whole point. He didn't call plays there either.
He's in I think he did this season. So there you can find. Again, you don't know what happens.
Maybe.
The ins and outs of these meeting rooms and what happens on these sidelines. Nick Sirianni talked last summer about stepping away from play calling.
He did. You're right.
And I think that put Shane Steichen in a better light for a lot of NFL teams. And then Jonathan Gannon, the Eagles defensive coordinator, off to Arizona. Those guys in the process of hiring their offensive coordinators right now. So you've got a few openings around the league at some coordinator positions. Sean Payton still has to round out his coaching staff in Denver. But it's interesting with Bieniemy. Let's assume he gets this Washington job, and it's been such a long road for him to get either a head coaching gig or a job where it is Eric Bieniemy's offense, and he's out from under the shadow of Andy Reid.
But see how you had to say that, though? Well, why nobody else had to do that? Who had no coaching, play calling, just like him? I mean, I don't know if he was or wasn't, but I'm going to just say he wasn't. I thought he was calling play at least a couple years ago, but I mean, so I just don't understand why that is the case with just him, especially under Reed's tree. It baffles me.
Something off to you about that?
It is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, even if he's a bad interview, you got to know he's picked up something from Andy Reid. So sometimes that carries weight. And you see trends, too, with owners and their hires. They're gone a lot younger, and guys who maybe aren't ready for head coaching jobs but get the jobs. And when I say that, I'm talking about maybe your quarterback's job or you weren't calling plays. Yeah. Just like Eric Bieniemy. And so that's kind of been the trend. And they go on offensive, mostly. So, they follow trends if you follow the owners. Because ultimately it's about, the development of your quarterback and your offense. Because I think this is an offensive-driven league. It's not like back in my day where defense wins championships. I firmly believe that you have to have offense and put on points to win games. Defense doesn't have to be great. It just has to be good.
Which is where that's the curiosity with Bieniemy, right? He's under Andy Reid. Who knows who's calling which plays, but that's the best offense the NFL has seen in the modern era, is the Kansas City Chiefs. There are 8 openings in the NFL, head coaching vacancies last season. Eric Bieniemy interviewed for damn near all of them. This time there were 5, and we only had reports of him interviewing for 1 with the Colts. But when you sit back and think about it, Eric Bieniemy at this point has probably interviewed with like half the league for a head coaching position at one point or another.
But that's horrible.
So, but how much? How many of those owners in another cycle where they have to make another hire, and Bieniemy's not called because they're like, oh, we've been there, done that. We talked to him a couple years ago. We know what he is.
This is
and they just skate right by it. That's the only logic to me.
Well, you could say they like the hot new thing. They like the hot new chick, right? Well, he's not hot anymore, even though they still winning. To me, he stays in the conversation to me because they continue to win. But I think they think like that. And to something what you're saying, though, they've been there, done that, and kind of moved past and moved on, and he's not the hot new thing, So, yeah, there's some of that to it, but I don't know if he's going to, have success potentially as an OC or not. I don't know much about him as a play caller. I played against him when he was a running back. If you know this, he was a Cincinnati Bengal. He was a great college running back at Colorado. That's when they were the top of the mountain. Matter of fact, I think he might have won the national title when he was there.
They did win a title in that era.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was when he was there.
Right. But they had a really good team when he was there. I remember watching them in the dorms when I was in college. So I used to be, oh, man, Colorado's really good. That's when they were recruiting a lot in Houston, and they had a lot of players from Houston. So, we shall see, man. I wish him the best, and then – yeah, go ahead. What you got some Bieniemy stats for us? What was his numbers? He wasn't a great running back. He was just a good running back. But in college,
Eric
he was
Bieniemy
pretty
has
good.
interviewed 15 times for head coaching positions over the last 4 years with 14 teams.
That's half the league. I mean, that is right there.
So that's why I lean to, is he just a horrible interview? Like, what is he doing?
Well, yeah.
Are they asking him questions that he's not prepared for? After 15 interviews, I think you prepare pretty much for everything.
He might not be the hot new thing, but he might have to make Sam Howell the hot new thing because that's his quarterback now. Going from Pat Mahomes to Sam Howell.
Now, see, here's my thing about this. Is he doomed for failure? Sam Howell, we don't know much about him. And by the way, ownership is about to sell the team. What does the new owner want to do? Bring in my guy. Up, that means Rivera may be out. That means you may be out. Or you could potentially get the job. I don't know, but usually they kind of move on to a whole new staff. So I thought this was a risky proposition. I would have stayed pat, and I would have went back to the Chiefs if it was me. Because after going through all that drama, 15 interviews, hearing that sounds horrific. That means I'm not looked upon as a head coach, and maybe I'm going to just stay right here and wait for my opportunity. I know some people going to say that's dumb because, oh, man, you've been there the whole time. No, maybe Andy Reid says, I'm calling the plays. even if I'm really not. Maybe if I'm just calling some of the plays. And I think Andy Reid's kind of done that to a certain extent at times. Because he'll say, Eric Bieniemy and I are, calling the plays.
He's always vouched for him.
Yeah. And Andy Reid, I think, would do that for anybody, to be honest, whether it was true or not. I think he's just that kind of dude, So, yeah, I wish him the best and hopefully get a shot. And guess what? The pressure's on him now. I mean, to me, a tough situation. They got a running game, but you don't have a proven quarterback. I mean, at least if you know what you're getting into and he started at least 1 year instead of one game or something, that's tough. You never know. Then you're going to say, well, he's not a good quarterback. I need another one.
Yeah.
And that could put him down the dumps. Dude, I stay right there in Kansas City. I know I'm not going nowhere with my homies at the quarterback.
Well, I don't know what the future holds for Washington, but I imagine Washington Commander fans are excited about this coaching hire. So I ask you, with the NFL head coaching carousel over, which NFL franchise benefited the most from this coaching cycle that did not hire a new head coach? We're going to get to your phone calls, too, 615-737-1045. It's Blaine and Mickey on 1045, The Zone.
Now listen, we have some exciting news for you. No, it is not Kirby, Alan Kirby. For many of you, you have lived here a long time, and you already know Eurofix has been in Middle Tennessee area for your European car repair needs now for 24 years. And we've all gotten to watch them grow. And I don't know about you, but I love watching a hometown business take off. Well, we are now proud to announce the 5th location in Mount Juliet for Eurofix on Mount Juliet Road, right across the street from Dairy Queen. And Eurofix can serve you in Franklin, Hundred Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. Pretty cool getting to watch a small-town mechanic starting in a barn in the backyard of his single-wide trailer and now grow to 5 locations repairing thousands of cars each month. And at Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can just visit them online at myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. But always tell them Blaine said ya.
So 5 NFL franchises have a new head coach going into the 2023 season. Lucas Panzica, Blaine Bishop with you until 3 o'clock on 104.5 The Zone. That leaves, if my math is correct, Brett, if you could double check me on this, Brett Batchelor running the show, 27 teams that will go into 2023 with the same head coach from 2022. So, Blaine, of those 27 teams, which of those 27 do you feel maybe benefited the most from the way this head coaching carousel played out now that it's complete with Jonathan Gannon at the Arizona Cardinals being the last piece of the puzzle?
Oh, man, you can go all over the place here. I'm kind of looking at it from a bird's eye view off the top as not knowing this question is going to happen as teams that retained their coaches and didn't lose any coaches. That's, to me, the teams that benefited. So I could think of, I want to make sure I'm right, did the Dolphins lose anybody?
No, the Dolphins, in fact, upgraded hiring Vic Fangio as their defensive coordinator.
Right.
They got a former head coach in there.
Buffalo Bills, they didn't lose anybody, I don't recall. I would say the New York Giants, who did a really good job this year, Dayball.
The New York Giants, both coordinators were in play. For multiple jobs.
They didn't get him.
Mike Kafka stays as the offensive coordinator. Wink Martindale stays on as the defensive coordinator.
Now, it's still up to debate because the Broncos haven't finished their staff, right?
Right. Sean Payton rounding out his staff, but it's hard to imagine. Mike Kafka's calling plays in New York.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's because he has a relationship with Dayball.
Yeah.
And, so that was there already before, so he trusts in him. And then I would lastly say, did the Bengals lose anybody?
Lou Anarumo sticking around
right,
as the Bengals defensive coordinator.
Right. See, so I'm off the top of my head. That's kind of what I'm thinking right now, and probably more shaded towards the AFC. Did the Ravens lose anybody? They lost the OC, and
they're right. They part ways with Greg Roman. They bring in Todd Monken from Georgia.
Right. And I remember. I thought, I don't know. You're just. I liked Monken. I like what I saw in him at the college level, and it looked like he ran a pro style offense. I thought the Titans should bring him in and interview him, but they never did. So I kind of like what I saw out of them in the pro-style offense. 2 tight end sets, and they had 2 great tight ends. Bowers being the leader, but he should be a number 1 pick. That's a guy you take in the first round if you want to go after a tight end.
615-737-1045 if you want to chime in. So the Indianapolis Colts honing in on rounding out their coaching
Wait,
staff.
You didn't tell us who your teams were.
I have to go with the Giants.
Oh, the Giants?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's the only team where both coordinators interviewed for a head coaching position, to my knowledge. I don't think that there are any other franchises where that was the case.
That didn't take a job, right?
That didn't, or just interviewing for a job.
Right,
both
that's what I'm saying.
coordinators were considered for head coaching positions. And Wink Martindale's been around. He's been around for a while.
Yeah. I remember him when he went to Ravens.
Long-time Ravens defensive coordinator. Yeah. Brian Daboll hires him with the New York Giants. I mean, you might know better than me. Has Wink Martindale been one of those names year in and year out that gets brought up for these head coaching positions?
No.
This was the first offseason for me that I saw him coming up.
Yeah, you have success in New York with the Giants. They feel like, that was a snowstorm there.
Right.
So, we may want to interview him. Maybe he knows something we don't. Yeah.
But it's Brian Daboll's offense in New York. But I think Mike Kafka got a lot of the credit for the way Daniel Jones played this season.
And he should have. He made big strides, and they're going to have to sign him. And I hope probably to more like a Tannehill free agent, but younger. So let's say $30 million a year. I don't think you don't pay a guy like that $40 million after 1 year of success. I think you say, hey, we want to make sure you do well, and our team still does well. And I think you can sell it to him, and he stay there. He definitely shows strides as an athlete, which is when he came out from Duke. To also with the big arm, and it showed out. And eventually with good coaching and probably better players, better scheme around them, and you got a really good running back behind you. So all those things kind of came together with Daboll. So you got to say that he was the leader, that he gets the credit for really, as well as Koepka and developing Jones to this level. He had a phenomenal season, and he played well against the Titans. So we got to see him live right off the bat, right in the beginning of the season, and he looked different. So, and then he wasn't injury prone as well. Like he was in previous years, taking big hits because they got better offensive linemen. So they had a better all-around, better team around them. So, yeah, I'm interested to see how well they do if they can do it back-to-back with Daboll. I'm a big fan of his because I liked what he ran with his offense and with the Alabama, and they were throwing it around the yard, and yet he understands in the NFL that's a little bit different. We're going to throw, but we're also going to run. We got a great player. We're going to not only run with him, we're also going to throw to him. So, yeah, he's a smart coach.
Best year of Saquon Barkley's career.
Yeah, and he stayed healthy. Saquon, I don't
Yep.
know how much they're gonna go all in and give him a big deal. I don't know if I'm gonna say this. I let him walk, and I like him. Yeah, I'm just not putting. If you look at the formula, the last 4 teams that were in the playoffs, maybe even the last 8 teams, they running back by committee. There was no superstar running back like the Titans. There was no team like that.
Other than Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, well, you could say, yeah. I mean, but he was an addition at the end. And by the way, he's a utility, and his game is not like King. But yeah, you're right. He's definitely on that level. Yeah, no question.
And then speaking of McCaffrey and the 49ers, and by the way, Blake Lovell is going to join us here in a few minutes to talk SEC hoops. Big weekend for Tennessee up in Lexington. But anytime these carousels get completed, teams kind of fall victim to their own success, right? And now Kyle Shanahan has to hire a third defensive coordinator in San Francisco as DeMeco Ryans departs, and he's the head coach of the Houston Texans.
Who's been interviewing there? Did they already hire somebody?
They have their guy in San Francisco.
Was it a guy who was a DC somewhere else?
I'm going to make sure I have this right.
Yeah, that could be a stumbling block there. DeMeco Ryans.
Steve Wilkes. That's
Steve
right.
Wilkes. Okay, yeah. Now he's approved. I like him. He's a good DC. He's solid. He's solid in the pros, not in college, but he was solid in the pros.
Isn't that so? Steve Wilkes at Missouri
was horrible.
A disaster.
It was horrible. The college game is different. It's just different, man. That's why I say you don't know, even with coaches within the NFL moving from team to team, and that's why I laugh, and I get it why the fans think that. That doesn't mean, Downing is going to be horrible with another team. You got to know when you get hired, you're going to get fired. That doesn't mean you're not a good coach. Yeah. He may have been hand-strapped to maybe personnel, offensive linemen hurt, receivers hurt, or handicapped by his own coach because he wanted to run his scheme and not necessarily your scheme, and what you want to do. So those things all play a part. One thing I can't say, there's been times when guys are horrible one season at one team, and then the next year you go, well, dang, that looks totally different than what they did, and they're calling the plays. And I'm like, wow, so you can never say that, oh, he was a horrible coach here and that he'll be a horrible coach at the next spot. You just don't know. It's really hard to say. It's no different if you disagree with what Vrabel did hiring within. That doesn't mean they're not going to be good. Doesn't mean they're going to be bad. I mean, you just don't know. May have better chemistry. Things work better. You have healthy players. You got your quarterback. You got offensive line that you replace with other guys, and then all of a sudden the offense kind of comes to rhythm and gets into a flow. So it wasn't like they're doing anything different. Kelly may be calling the same plays, just got better players. So it just, you never can say that. It's really hard. Trust me, when I first got in radio, I was like, man, he was a horrible coach. And then you go over there and they have great, go to the Super Bowl. You'd be like, what? How did that happen? Where was he at here? So it's really interesting how that parlays into it all. But chemistry within a coaching staff is always key. Just no different than with the players.
I don't know if chemistry has been the norm in Lexington this year. Lexington, Kentucky.
Oh.
Kentucky basketball escaping Starkville this week. They win at Mississippi State and get ready to host. And the way that game played out late, Blake Lovell joins us now on 104.5 The Zone ahead of a big weekend in SEC hoops. Blake, I'm guessing you were watching there at the end in Starkville, Kentucky, Mississippi State, late. What did you think of the travel call that was missed at the end there that had Chris Jans?
It was not travel. They didn't call it.
No, they did not call it. Chris Jans lighting up the officials at the hump on Wednesday.
Yeah, Jans wasn't very happy with that, as you could tell, guys. But I think also it's like the magnitude of the game plays into that because, that was a huge game for Mississippi State. And he's probably sitting back thinking, we'd won 5 in a row. We win this game. We're probably in the NCAA tournament right now. Now they're, on that borderline. So, yeah, not a great break for the Bulldogs, but a good break for the Cats. And certainly that sets up quite an interesting matchup there tomorrow.
So Tennessee, Kentucky tomorrow. Tennessee has come out with a different starting lineup since that loss to Kentucky in Thompson Bowling Green. The Vols have gone a little bit smaller at the start of games since then. How do you see this game playing out in Rupp Arena? I know it's hard with the inconsistency Kentucky has shown in Tennessee for that matter, but coming off that win against Alabama, do you feel like the approach for the Vols is going to be any different going into Lexington versus the first matchup against Kentucky?
Yeah, I've said, guys, it's weird to think, but if I was a betting person, I would not touch this game because I don't know what you're getting from either team here. It feels like, because it's Kentucky will lose a game they shouldn't, and they'll turn around and beat someone you don't think they're going to beat. And, that was the scenario, of course, with the Tennessee game back on January 14th. I think what we have to remember from that game is Tennessee defended really well. They were really good defensively in that game. But what happened, of course, was somehow they still shot 56% from two. They couldn't make a three. I think they were 3 of 21 in that game. But they missed how many just wide open layups? I felt like they missed, 6 to 8 shots that were within about 5 feet. And some of those were contested, but I think there were several that were not. And that's the kind of thing I think you look at in this game. And you talk about kind of switching the rotation around a little bit, using a different lineup. What we saw Wednesday night is exactly what Tennessee has to do to get to the Final Four. They have to just go out and basically intimidate the other team with their defense. And that's exactly what they did against Alabama. Alabama had no idea kind of how to respond to the physicality of Tennessee. As I said on Twitter, I thought it was the most physical game I've seen this season in the SEC. And a lot of that's because of how Tennessee played. And I think that's exactly what they have to do against Kentucky. Because, first time around, they defended really well. But, Kentucky is one of those teams that just needed it at the time, right? They just willed their way to victory, basically. I think in this game, with the way Tennessee's defended, I don't know that Kentucky is kind of in that same position. I know they just won a game at state, but I think Tennessee's defense is what matters here, and that's why I give the Vols a little bit of an edge heading into this one.
Blake Lovell at the Blake Lovell, managing editor for 14 Southeastern, talking SEC hoops with us on 104.5 The Zone.
Well, Blake, just based off what you just said there, and I'm going to make this statement, you tell me you counter it. Is Rick Barnes' philosophy that you can overcome poor shooting with tough defense, which is great for the regular season, in my opinion, but not for the tournament because, and that's why I think he hasn't had success, because they're not going to let you be as physical in the NCAA tournament, and you get weary legs because you're playing each and every day. Because this has become no different than other sports. This has become an offensive-driven. The team who puts up the most points always wins. You can't think their guys are going to play at that level of defense once the tournament starts, and it starts really in the SEC tournament where you're playing back-to-back. When I say that, what is your counter to that?
I think you're exactly right, Blaine. I said to someone probably about a week ago because I said, look, here's what's happening is if you play offense the way they play offense sometimes, and we've talked about kind of maybe the lack of evolution with their offense over the years perhaps, and especially maybe with this team at times, it puts way more pressure on you defensively. And you can't expect them to come out and be perfect on defense every single time they go out there. Now, hey, let's be honest. If there's a team that's close to doing that this year, it's Tennessee because their numbers are still fantastic. But, again, that's where if you have a team like, for example, let's take the Missouri game. Missouri just gets hot from three. They just make shots. And it's not necessarily Tennessee's fault. It's just you have another team that's just making shots. Well, yes, Tennessee can make up that ground, but guess who they did it against? They did it against Missouri, who's probably one of, if not, bottom 2, 3 worst defensive teams in the SEC. And so when you start playing the better teams, and getting games like that, like you said, Blaine, the tournament setting where you're playing every other day or whatever, every day in the SEC tournament, but it's just, how does that balance? What does that balance look like? Can you go without, I guess, going from one extreme to the other, where it's really all about your defense has to do everything because you just don't have that consistency offensively, or can you kind of find that middle ground that they, I think, have to find if they're going to be a team that does reach Final Four?
Right. Here's what I'll say. Great defense never wins against great offense. See, and that's the issue to me with Rick Barnes, and that's why he's not having success at the next level in the SEC tournament, or not SEC tournament, but the NCAA tournament. Now, let's moving forward to the NCAA tournament. How did Tennessee's win? How did that affect their seeding? You think because each individual teams or conference tournaments really don't impact unless it was a team that was outside looking in, right? Mostly.
Yeah, I don't think Tennessee's gonna. I'd be surprised at this point. Now, I mean, I say this, and of course, we know the context I'm saying it in. They can't, go 1-4 or something the rest of the way. But, and they've got a pretty tough schedule, right? They're at Kentucky tomorrow. They play at 8 a.m. on Tuesday. They still got to go to Auburn. They still got Arkansas at home. So I think my guess is Tennessee's going to wind up as a 2 or 3 seed. I can't really, unless they just lose the majority of these games, their resume is strong enough. Why? Because Tennessee is beating good teams. Let's not forget that. It's like they just did what they did to Alabama. They may lose to some teams they shouldn't lose to, but they've beaten Kansas. They've beaten Alabama. They've beaten Texas. Even a team like Mississippi State twice. They've beaten Maryland. I mean, look what Maryland did. Was that last night against Purdue? So it's just, I think we have to keep that in mind. Tennessee may be frustrating at times because they may lose some games, in unprecedented fashion, back-to-back buzzer beaters. But when you really think about it, you compare their resume to a lot of other teams. Not a lot of other teams have the high-level wins that they have. And that's why I don't think they're going to move down beyond a 2 or 3 seed because, again, unless barring just a collapse here. If they win the games they should win, and let's say they lose maybe one on the road at Kentucky or at Auburn, something like that, I don't think that impacts Tennessee too much because they've already done the bulk of their work just with the good wins they have.
Cool. One more for me, and that is, what other game or matchup in the SEC outside of the UK and Tennessee that you're looking forward to?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think there's 2. I think Missouri A&M is fascinating because, Missouri I don't think is a lock by any means. A&M is not a lock by any means. And why that's fascinating is A&M's 11-2 in the SEC, and yet they're not a lock to make the tournament just yet. They're probably a 9 seed right now because of the poor non-conference. So that could be a huge one that kind of locks A&M into things. Could be a huge one for Missouri that locks them in. So I think there's a lot at stake. And then, you know where I'm going, guys. Like, we've got to stay in our backyard here. Vanderbilt and Auburn is all of a sudden very intriguing now because I think Auburn, every game for Auburn now, I feel like is the biggest game of the season because, again, they're not a lock to get in. They're probably in that 9 seed range right now. So they lose a game like this, then maybe you slide back to a 10. Things start getting interesting. But for Vanderbilt, here's the path, and it's very simple. They are so far down kind of in the net rankings and the computer metrics. They're still around the 90 mark. Vanderbilt has to win out to have a chance to make the NCAA tournament. But here's the thing. If you look at their schedule, it's not that crazy to think that they could do it. Again, unlikely just given how many games that is, but they've got a chance in all these games, guys. And if they win this one tomorrow night, look out because those final 4 games could be very interesting.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Vanier is hot right now, and they're believing. So we're on with Blake Lovell, managing editor covering the SEC, all sports in the SEC at 14 Southeastern.
So 4 wins in a row at this point for Vanderbilt, hosting Auburn tomorrow night. They head to LSU after that, hosting Florida next Saturday, going to Kentucky, and then the regular season finale at home against Mississippi State. Be interesting to see if they can stay hot through that last stretch. It's been an interesting year in the league, Blake, because almost half the league's under a first-year head coach. 6 first-year head coaches in the SEC this season. Dennis Gates at Missouri has done a fantastic job. If the tournament were to start tomorrow, they'd probably be in. And the latest projections from Joe Lunardi at the moment have 6 teams currently in the NCAA tournament picture. Well, really 7 with Kentucky part of the last 4 in, Mississippi State just on the outside looking in. In your mind, best case scenario, how many teams could the SEC get into the NCAA tournament? Best case.
I'm going to say 7, and I think it's because you'll see a Kentucky or Mississippi State play their way out. But somehow it's 7. And again, you're talking about, like, guys, I've been saying this for 2 months now. I'm like, guys, let's all look around and realize the SEC, it's not out of the realm of possibility that the SEC may get like 3 teams into the tournament. Because when you were really watching it go along, right, it was – because remember, even if they get 7 in, there's going to be probably at least 4 of those teams that are 9 seeds or lower. So it's like there's very little room for error. Like, there could still be a huge swing the rest of the way that sends that number to 7, maybe 8, which would just be ridiculous to think about given this landscape in the SEC. But it could also send it down much lower, right, depending on who wins some of these games. So I will go 7 as best case scenario, but again, most of those teams are still going to be bubble teams. They're going to be 9 seeds or lower probably, and again, that kind of shows you the strength of the SEC. It's kind of been Alabama, Tennessee, and good luck figuring everybody else out.
Oh, cool.
He is Blake Lovell, managing editor for 14 Southeastern. Follow him on Twitter at @TheBlakeLovell. And, of course, you can hear Tennessee, Kentucky, a noon tip right here on The Zone, courtesy of the Vol Network. Blake, enjoy the games tomorrow. Thanks for the time.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate it as always, guys.
Thanks, Blake. Good info there.
2 weeks left in the regular season.
Isn't that crazy?
College basketball.
Luba. Yeah.
Free agency is probably going to fly by in the NFL this offseason. There is one free agent quarterback currently on the market, and He is set to visit one QB needy team in the AFC. We'll talk about it. Take your call, 615-737-1045. Coming up next, it's Blaine and Mickey on 1045, The Zone.
Is it already the time of year again? We're making resolutions we hopefully can keep. Thanks to the folks at Cool Ray. They make taking care of your home's resolutions easy. Maybe it's to keep the heat on. That's a pretty important goal. And Cool Ray will help you take care of that with a $49 winter tune-up. Much like the holiday treats have us needing to get back in shape, maybe your home's heating system needs a complete revamp too. That's no problem either. Cool Ray's entering the new year stocked up and ready with furnaces on hand, ready for next day installation. Plus, they sell boasts the lifetime parts and labor warranty on new Carrier home comfort systems. And that's $0 in repair costs for the life of your system. If your home is truly as good to go, Cool Ray is even looking out for your personal resolutions too. What I mean by that is you can browse coolray.com/careers page and kickstart your career with their industry-leading benefits and work-life balance. Spots are open for HVAC, service technicians, installers, plumbers, electricians, you name it, it's there. And all you have to do is schedule your next visit or browse career opportunities at coolray.com. No phone call, no wait, no worries. You pick the date and time that works for you. That's coolray.com.
Could be something brewing in the AFC at the quarterback position. We'll get to that headline, but first to your phone calls, in particular about one local professional team that did not have a good night last night. But first, we'll go to Jeremy in Nashville. Wants to talk about the Titans quarterback situation. Good afternoon, Jeremy.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. I've been on hold for a minute, so I was going to kind of chip in on what a little bit of everything he's been talking on since Buck cut off. But, yeah, everybody's talking about getting rid of Tannehill. Yeah, like he's definitely not the future 2 to 3 years down the road. But, Blaine, you can speak to this. The importance of the intangibles as far as a leader that he is, the locker room is, gets behind him. And to remove him, isn't that going to be something else that they're going to have to attempt to replace or have built back up by bringing somebody else in new? There's just so many holes across this team and uncertainty with, the coordinator or the offensive line and just on down the list. Why create that, one more thing that you have to replace by bringing in another quarterback that you're not even for sure whether or not he's going to be the end-all, be-all solution to the situation? And then with this coaching tree conversation you guys were having, wasn't Romeo Connelly part of that Belichick?
Yeah, he was.
Coaching?
He was, and he didn't have a success either. Yeah,
he didn't have a successful career either
as a head
outside of
coach.
Belichick. But right. So do you think that kind of Belichick tree is kind of ran dry? Like nobody, it has like credibility. Like everybody that came off of it has fell short. So it's like, why would any of these other teams kind of go back to that, especially with kind of where they're at now as a middle of the road at best team? But yeah, that's kind of all I got. I'll just hang up and listen to what you got to say.
Thanks for the call, Jeremy.
Well, that's kind of interesting point on the Belichick. I think it's slowed a little bit. But if he starts having success again, I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. You're looking for success, and hopefully you hit one diamond in the rough, and then you catch dynamite, and then, your organization then does really well. So I get it, yeah, but they haven't. And, but for whatever reason, hey, Bill is Bill, but that don't mean his assistants are going to be that. And that's any other organization, too. Insistence, but sometimes you always find something that's there. So I can't fault them for it, though, because I think if I was in a higher position, you've seen success, then hopefully we can model it and bring that to our organization. As far as the Tannehill, I'm hearing his name a lot as far as, like, the Titans don't have a quarterback he may be potentially traded. Now, my perspective is not the one of the Titans. And when I say that, this is my own feel what I would do. And I like Tannehill, and I think he's a good, solid quarterback. But I'm already in the position where I think I need to start going in a different direction. You just talked about all the changes that's already happening there. To me, then let's just finalize it and get a new quarterback. And I would trade him if I can get some good value for a third, fourth round pick, maybe even a fifth if it depends on, what I'm getting and what time and where I'm at and how close I am to maybe signing somebody. And I would go out inside some middle-of-the-road quarterbacks. Dobbs would be one of them and compete, and Sam Darnold would be my other one. And I like those two guys, and I think they have some upside. We don't know how good they actually can be. And then you bring in Malik Willis and have him continue to develop him, see where he can go. I don't think he's potentially ever going to be a starting quarterback in the National Football League. He just has too far to go. And some of it you only learn when you're in game, in situations. You can do what you want to in the preseason practice, but he's got a ways to go. He's got a ways to go, unfortunately. What Dobbs did in a 2-game stint wasn't here very long. A lot of people are going to try to say he's not as good as Tannehill. Let's put that out there. But he is better than expected with not a lot of playing time in live action in games. So I was impressed. I watched him throughout his college career. I know what he brings to the table. He's definitely proved that he can sit in the pocket and make critical throws. So it looks like he's more of a Jacoby Brissett or, any backup quarterback that's a solid player. I think he is that. I think I'm pretty firm on that. Now, can he be a starting quarterback potentially in a short window? Let's say if he had to start 6 to 8 weeks, and then let's see what he can look like. Well, let's bring another first-round guy in, Sam Darnold, who's a free agent. You don't have to pay him a lot of money, by the way. He's failed at 2 organizations. You can't say it's just him. Also was the organizations he was with, and maybe he didn't get the support that he needed. And let them duke it out. And guess what? This is my year to see what direction we need to go on the cheap at quarterback, because I still got the king, and now that gives me time to build my line and my receiving core. And you can get that done with drafting one as well as signing a free agent, an offensive lineman. and as well as in maybe a trade. So I would go more that route. Has nothing to do with Tannehill. And my whole objective, if I'm thinking this way, is because when we get into our new stadium, we're going to be a Super Bowl contending team, not a playoff contending team, and it starts now. And if I have to give up some players that I don't really want to, I may potentially even do that. And when I'm saying that, I'm talking about superstars because they're going to bring collateral. They're going to give me, draft picks that I can help build my roster this season. As I mentioned, running back is mostly by committee in the league with the teams that had success, even if they had just a solid quarterback. So if that was the King, if that was Big Jeff, as much as I like those players and they're still really good, but there's also a business side of it, and you have to have eyes in the stands and who do they want to come and watch, so there's a business side to it too. So even Kevin Byard, who is the greatest safety to me in my eyes in Titans history. So it just depends where I'm at. And I would, if someone offered me something that I think can give me more draft picks this season, and next thing I know, I go from having 7 picks to 11, and they're in good positions, not at the end of the draft, but, in that second, third, fourth round. That's kind of how I would approach this season. And so I don't think they're thinking that way. I'm thinking more rebuild to a certain extent. I think they're thinking more retool. And I think I can retool and be effective enough in Vrabel's offense. Let's stop that. Kelly, Downey. It's Vrabel's offense. Only person who was really running their offense to me is Arthur Smith as well as LaFleur. The other guys, I think he was pointing him in the direction of where to go. Not to say he was calling the plays, but I think they were doing what they were told to do. So I think we can survive that way this season and still be presentable. The only reason why I would want to do this is because I don't think the team is going to be but at best 10-17, even if Tannehill is here. So why not start the process sooner than later? So that's why I'm thinking that. They're not thinking that. I don't think they are thinking that. I think they can get back to the playoffs, and then we all know once you get into the playoffs, anything can happen. And, all the Aaron Rodgers, I love Aaron Rodgers as a player. Right now, there's nothing that tells me that if I'm Aaron Rodgers, why do I want to go to the Titans? They have no weapons to throw to. If I was him, I'd stay right there in Green Bay. Those guys got better as the season went along, and those receivers got better. And, he's just a different cat, but he's still a special player. So I wouldn't go anywhere for him. I wouldn't trade for him as much as I love his talent. I've never seen a guy, even Mahomes. Well, Mahomes did throw a ball with neither feet on the ground, and he threw one where he was parallel to Mahomes. Aaron Rodgers throws dimes and his feet aren't even on the ground. So that's a special player. So you just gotta know what you're dealing with. He's a little quirky. So yeah, that's kind of how I would go. But a lot of people would disagree with that. But that's kind of where I would go.
Steve in Cookeville wants to talk about a complete meltdown that happened in Music City last night. We'll get to that in that AFC headline coming up next. It's Hour 2, Blaine and Mickey on 104.5 The Zone. It is 2:02. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. Number 10, Tennessee heads up to Lexington tomorrow to take on the Cats. It's a noon tip-off from Rupp Arena. You can hear it live right here, courtesy of the Vol Network on 104.5 The Zone. Tennessee will look to avenge an early season home loss against the Kentucky Wildcats. Vanderbilt will look to stay hot. They've won 4 in a row, hosting Auburn at Memorial Gym tomorrow night, a 7:30 tip-off. And the Belmont Bruins with a massive Missouri Valley matchup, 3 p.m. tip Sunday at Drake. College baseball season gets underway tonight. Number 2, Tennessee is in Scottsdale, taking on Arizona at the MLB Desert Invitational. It's a 7 p.m. first pitch tonight. They'll face Grand Canyon tomorrow and UC San Diego on Sunday, while Vanderbilt, the number 10 team in the country, takes on TCU in Arlington. That's a 3 p.m. first pitch, taking on Oklahoma State Saturday and Texas on Sunday. The Nashville Predators, after a 5-0 loss to Boston last night, will host the Florida Panthers, a 1 p.m. puck drop at Bridgestone Arena tomorrow afternoon. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone. It's Blaine and Mickey, hour 2 on a Friday, 104.5 The Zone. Appreciate you hanging out with us. 615-737-1045 to join the conversation. Lucas Panzica filling in for Mickey Ryan on this cold Friday afternoon. Like, what is this drop-off? We've got 70-degree weather throughout the course of the week. I'm in short sleeves Monday through Thursday, and then I step outside this morning without looking at any of my weather apps. And it's freezing, Blaine. I have to turn
and
around.
Snowing.
And flurrying. I have to go back inside my house and just totally restart my day. Just completely recalibrate.
Oh, man. They said earlier this week that it was going to snow. I didn't want to believe them. I did not. I was like, no way. It's 67. Oh, no. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was stunned. I was like, oh, my. I was about to get my earmuffs out, man.
Nashville Predators have to completely recalibrate what they're doing. Did you see what happened last night in Bridgestone Arena? Other than a catfish being thrown on the ice in the middle of the second period?
I did not, but I definitely saw some highlights, and I know they got smoked 5-0 to what the best team in
Boston Bruins are leading the league.
Yeah,
they're the best team in the league right now by quite a decent margin. But the Preds have been awful since the All-Star break. Awful, Blaine. They got
awful.
Smoked by Vegas. They were able to bounce back and grab a win after that, but losing at home to the Arizona Coyotes, the biggest joke of a franchise in the NHL earlier this week, and then 5-0, looking completely lifeless against the Boston Bruins.
But what's their issue? Because Soros is one of the top 5 goalies, you would say, but top 5, 10 in the NHL. So you go, what's their deal? They just don't have chemistry, or is it coaching? I mean, what is it? They look like they were through the highlights. Like, I think this team is on the next level.
Steve in Cookville has been on hold. Wants to talk about
is it the coach?
The Preds. Steve, what's going on with the Preds right now?
Well, I was there last night. I've been a season ticket holder for over 10 years, and that was really hard to take. I mean, I knew there were a lot of Bruins fans there, but my gosh, when they scored their first goal, there was a roar in there like as if the Predators had scored.
Oh, so it was like their home game, huh?
Oh, gosh, yes. And, looking at the big picture, we've had a team now for, 24 years? Because 98 was the first year, coming up on a quarter of a century.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got 2 banners hanging up in Bridgestone Arena. One was for winning the Western Conference the year we went to the final. And then the next year we won the President's Trophy, which was the most points in a season. But looking back on this, this is our 3rd coach. Trotz was the first coach. They let him go, and all he did was win a Stanley Cup 3 years later.
Mm-hmm.
They brought in Laviolette, and he brought in some players, requested him. David Poyle's the one that makes that final decision, but they brought him in. He took us to a cup, and a lot of those players were from Barry Trotz, but all along, David Poyle has been the GM, and he is the common factor. He's not bringing in good players, not making good decisions. Again, other teams in NHL that have won Stanley Cups, and out of 24 years, the best we can do is go to the finals once, and win the Western Conference one time, he is the problem. Mm-hmm. And I don't really think that Hines can win us a Stanley Cup. So, in my opinion, both should go, and I'll hang up and listen to your comments.
Well, real quick, did you think that the team, I'm not going to say quit, but lost hope that they could even match up with them as the game went on? Because my friends who were there, they said that, and they said quit, but I'm not going to say that. It's hard for me as an athlete to say that about other athletes because I know that doesn't happen. But you can be demoralized and feel defeated within a game and saying, man, we don't have a shot at winning this game.
Yeah, I don't know their mindset, but, our best scorer, Forsberg, got hurt last Saturday, and I hope he's gonna be back. But the way he laid on the ice,
look how he had a concussion.
I don't know, but getting back to my point was, I think they were beat when they went on the ice. They knew they were playing the best team in NHL. They have not been playing well, and Saros cannot. He's the last resort. Your defensemen and your forwards are supposed to be playing some defense and not hang him out to dry, which they did last night. And they had a player to sit there and camped out in front of the crease. Nobody was near him, and they fired a shot to him, and he deflected it right in. That is poor defense, and that's not going to cut it.
It's always best to name names. Who's not living up to the contract? Is playing right now.
Oh, I'm not an analyst. I couldn't tell you that. I mean, it's I don't know. I don't want to speculate. I'm not an analyst, but I just know that David has served his purpose with this team, and he needs someone needs to come in that has a fresher outlook on better talent. Because, like I said, they let Laviolette go. 3 years later, he won the Stanley Cup. It's the players that Trotz had at that time. He could have won the Stanley Cup, but it's David Poyle is the one that decides what players are going to be drafted or a free agent brought in.
And thanks for the call, Steve.
So it's time for David Poyle.
Trotz won the Stanley Cup with the Capitals, a couple years later. Laviolette, also the head coach of the Capitals. That's the pipeline to go from Preds to Caps. He's got the Caps second with holding on to that second wild card spot in the East at the moment. Philip Forsberg, day-to-day with an upper body injury. That was the designation after he went down. Yeah, one of those things where the designation was a lot lighter than it looked coming off the ice in that overtime win against Philly last Saturday morning. And I bring this up because 45 minutes ago, Michael Gallagher, he covers the Preds and the Titans for the Nashville Post and the Nashville Scene, tweeted, for what it's worth, at MG Sports _ tweets, for what it's worth, I've been hearing a coaching change is likely if the Preds miss the playoffs. So the Preds have not missed the NHL postseason since 2014. It's one of the longest active streaks in the NHL. And coming out of the All-Star break, they ended on a strong note. They go into the All-Star break 3, maybe 4 points, I'm trying to remember, outside of a wild card spot. And now you're sitting here with 56 points in the Western Conference, still 5 points back of that second wild card spot in the West that the Minnesota Wild currently hang on to. But the vibes around that franchise right now are really bad. And the Preds are at home against the Florida Panthers tomorrow. That's a 1 p.m. puck drop at Bridgestone Arena. Florida also in a fight for the play.
Well, coaching changes. It sounds like the caller, and I pretty much agree with it. Poyle has made some bad decisions, not only this, over the past, I guess, handful of years. It really, I think that's the point of it. I don't know where people stand with him, but that really is the crux. And then let the new GM come in and then hire the new coach.
Yeah. Our guy Alex Doherty of A to Z Sports tweeting, after tonight, this was last night, the Preds would need 42 points in their final 30 games to get to 98 points, which would be a comfortable playoff position. Getting between 19 to 21 wins in their final 30 seems almost impossible, or he says is almost certainly impossible, especially with the way this team is playing right now. So they are on pace at the moment to miss the playoffs for the first time since 2014. Things are not good with the Preds at the moment. So maybe this is terrible timing by me, but we got Preds tickets when we come back.
But they need some help because that was embarrassing. You know, they're chanting in the Preds stadium, and you know, the Bruins fans act like that was their home stadium.
Yeah.
That is embarrassing.
Need some Preds fans up in there. If no one wants, I won't skim to Buck Rising. He joins us at 2:30. It's Blaine and Mickey on 104.5 The Zone.
Yay.
All right, so here we go. Derek Carr.
No, he signed?
Could he? No.
Oh, okay.
Not yet. But could he be the first domino? Right now, it's shaping up like he just might be. Aaron Rodgers is in the dark somewhere. Meanwhile, Derek Carr,
In the dark.
according to Mike Garofalo of NFL Network. By the way, Blaine and Mickey, Lucas Panzica in for Mickey Ryan with the hitman Blaine Bishop, Brett Batchelor, our producer, with you until 3 on 104.5 The Zone. Buck Rising coming up in a few minutes. Here's the headline from Mike Garofalo of NFL Network. The New York Jets are bringing in free agent quarterback Derek Carr for a visit this weekend. It'll be the second meeting with the team for Carr, who visited the Saints prior to his release by the Raiders. Carr is in the process of evaluating all options now that he is a free agent.
Well, that sounds like that would potentially be a good fit, but New Orleans, Tampa Bay, really just the NFC South, right? Yeah. They need quarterbacks. I don't know where
the NFC South is completely quarterbackless.
Yeah. Well, so I'm sure they're going to draft a couple anyway. But, I don't know. He's the first domino because he's now a free agent. They had to cut him, so we shall see. And if he doesn't get signed before, when is the cutoff date for veterans? I think it's March something when they have to, give him a bonus or it's time to cut him. So maybe some more options out there that we don't even know about. But, then maybe they're not coming to him with the right kind of money. And how much do you want to pay him? Like, to me, he's the Ryan Tannehill, the middle of the road, good, solid starting quarterback in the National Football League. So I'm around the $30 million. Now I know most people are going to be giving him like 38 for. He throws too many interceptions for me. It's just too much. Solid leader. He showed that through the turmoil the last couple years. They told him not even to come around. So more power to him by saying, I can't trade me. I got to cut me so he can go where he wants to go. Don't help them out. So I like those qualities about him. So good leader, but maybe somebody can tame him on the interceptions. Maybe with the right offense and players around him, maybe he could be more than just a solid starting quarterback in the NFL. But I'm not paying out the wazoo for him. No way.
Ian Rappaport of NFL Network was discussing this earlier today. And the Jets, by the way, have been very public about they want to bring in a veteran quarterback. They understand that was the problem last year with the New York Jets. It was the quarterback position. Doesn't mean they're punting on Zach Wilson. He's probably still a Jet in 2023, but they're bringing somebody in. And could it be Derek Carr? Here is Ian Rappaport on NFL Network.
Okay.
Now, this is all about deadlines, right? And Derek Carr does not need to make a deal until his deadline, which is basically the start of the tampering period. He wants a leg up on all the other free agent quarterbacks. He has got it. This is now his time to take some visits, talk to some guys, and see where it all lands. We know, as you mentioned, he has visited the New Orleans Saints. Sounds like that went very well. They are very much in the mix here. The Jets make sense, too, although it is obvious that Aaron Rodgers would be their top choice if they had their druthers of free agent quarterbacks. I mean, I think that would be the case for many teams. Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers, and I think Derek Carr knows that going into the visit. Rodgers is in the darkness. We don't know what he is going to do. So if Rodgers stays dark, I guess, or whatever, decides to not be someone who is going to be traded, then Derek Carr, I think, makes a ton of sense for the Jets. So we will see if he ends up taking another visit after this before coming to his final decision.
March 15th is that period.
March 15th.
That Ian Rappaport is talking about.
Okay. Yeah, and Rodgers in the dark. I mean, he's got to let him know sooner than later.
Literally in the dark.
Yeah. Here's what I'm saying about Derek Carr and Tannehill. I'm quantify what I'm talking about. They're middle of the road, solid starting quarterbacks, and not elite. Aaron Rodgers is a game changer. Derek Carr, Tannehill, and those alike are game managers. And so you pay top notch for game changers, not game manager in my mind. And so now the going rate to me is around $30 million per year for a game manager with weapons around him. He can look, better than that. So Derek Carr is he's a 3-year less old Tannehill to me. And so if you think that plays out longer, I could see the Titans even making a play because it's the same guy. Now you have him for a longer term because he's younger. And I think he's only like 31 maybe, and Tannehill's 34 going into the season, somewhere like that. So that's kind of how I see him. A really good, solid dude. But it's not going to make me jump, oh, yeah, we got Derek Carr. And that's how I want to feel. So I don't think anybody can do that, really. And then you say Aaron Rodgers, you got to say, well, we got to make sure we get offensive line right. I mean, he's not, a genie in a bottle. I mean, he can't just make nothing out of something. So we got to make sure we have all those pieces in place. And I don't know if he can make that decision now and by March 15th. I don't know when free agency, I guess maybe it's around March 15th.
Yeah.
You got to be able to make a decision to tell Green Bay, though. So at some point, you want to be soon with that, with telling them that. But even Aaron Rodgers, as much as I think he's a phenomenal talent, just like his quirkiness and his personality and his leadership style, there's sometimes I don't like what he does, and that factors in. I know he's a great player, and I just don't know if I'm going to pay him $58 million. I'm going to make sure Green Bay's on the hook for half of that or something to that, because I just don't want to. And then I'm not sure, am I getting – if you trade for him, then you say, am I getting him for 1 year? I want more than 1 year. I'm sorry. I know. I got to get. You got to guarantee me, Aaron Rodgers, you're going to play 2 years. So there's certain limitations to me with Aaron Rodgers that I just don't think it's going to happen to me. If I'm the GM person, but man, is he a great player? Oh, I love about his play. He played with what was it called? With his thumb, whatever he did. I looked that up. That means you're almost half your thumb is off. Your skin and everything. Like
he's basically a bunch of torn ligaments.
I'm like, dang, how was he throwing the ball?
Of his thumb, yeah.
And that's why some of his throws looked horrible. Like guys were wide open on the dig route. I'm thinking in the Titans game, the guy was wide open, the ball bounced. Then he drops another dime to the guy in the end zone right there with perfect coverage. So it's just like, so it could look like that maybe he's losing a little bit. I think it was more the thumb. That's why I said I would make sure I check his thumb if I'm in any boat of any team looking to trade for Aaron Rodgers. The great Aaron Rodgers.
We'll talk to Buck a little bit about this, but I'm with you on the Derek Carr, Ryan Tannehill conversation. And I see Eric on the YouTube chat where you can hang out with us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Chime in, 615-737-1045. Eric says Carr and Tannehill are equals. Not to say they're the same player,
right.
But you view them on the same plane, right? Mm-hmm. As far as just big picture tiers of NFL quarterbacks.
Good, solid starting quarterbacks. Yeah.
So if that's the case, then how in the world would it make sense to reboot that position with the Tennessee Titans with that lack of an upgrade in Derek Carr over Ryan Tannehill?
Well, some would say you could parlay what I said is he's younger. He's 3 years younger.
That's it? Would that be the
only
baseline reasoning?
That would pretty much, unless it's some connection with him and a coordinator or something. But, yeah, that would be it. Because the
only connection was Todd Downing, and he's out of here.
He's gone. Well, but reason why younger does matter, he leads us into the new stadium. See? That's why it matters. And now we already got our quarterback. No different than when we got Tannehill from Mariota. We had our quarterback. And that was a great move when Vrabel made it, and I think it was justified, and then it continued on. And he was the better player and more consistent, and he didn't get injured hardly ever until now. So, which was, ankle injury could happen, and he'll come back and be fine. So I think that's the only difference. So I'm not a play on Derek Carr. I've never been like, oh, Derek Carr is the guy. But yeah, so I'm not real big. If we're gonna do that, we might as well just stay with Tannehill. It's not like he's a big cap. I mean, he's only $27 million or so. His cap hit is less than that.
Carr will turn 32 in March 28th.
And when does Tannehill turn 34 or 5?
Ryan Tannehill is currently 34. He will be 35 at the start of this coming season.
So they're 3 years apart.
3 years apart.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not making. That doesn't appeal to me. No, I would be happy with going with, as I said earlier, Dobbs or Sam Darnold. So you go ahead and laugh at me if you want to. That's okay. But I would be. I think in this offense with Derrick Henry, if he is still on the team, I think they would play better. Guess what? We only have a sample size of Dobbs starting games, but 2, not just with the Titans, in his career. Or did he start one other game? Still, that's not very many.
No, 2. So, those are his 2 career starts.
So his upside, we have no idea what it could potentially be. And I'm not saying he's a starting quarterback, but guess what? I am sure he is a quality backup quarterback in this league. That is without question. And he hadn't played, and he's been in the league, 5-6 years? So, dang, what teams were you on that they didn't play? Who was ahead of you? So I'm thinking he fits this scheme, this offense. Kind of don't want that. You can get him for, backup money, but $2-3 million. I don't know what they're paying the backups now, but you can get them both for around the same thing, $3 to $4 to $5 million, and let them compete for the job. Naturally, Darnold comes in a little more credence with his draft status, and so you probably would lean that way. But as soon as he makes a mistake, you feel like you can go right to the next guy. And with the King, and if you get the offensive line and some passing weapons, I think those guys would be efficient. So that and no different. Not to say they're better than Tannehill, but I think they could do the job somewhat close to him.
Darnold.
And for cheaper. And you got collateral if you traded him. It probably won't happen. But I think people value Tannehill more in the league than people think. I think they think, hey, man, he's a solid player and a good leader. And you got to think about it now. Everybody's going to New York. Most quarterbacks going there, that media there is a gauntlet now. So we already saw a youngster falter there in Wilson talking to the media. Tannehill and Derek Carr would be able to handle that really easy. Yeah, Carr handled a horrific deal last year and then continued that way. They treated him at the end there saying, we don't want you to get hurt, so go home.
Darnold would be a tough sell for people.
Oh, I know it would be. And it's because they're not. Guess how old he is? 25. He's been in the league 5 years. See? So people don't understand. He came in the league as a 20-year-old, and he wasn't in great settings. So I'm willing for the right price, because you don't have to pay a lot. If you go look at it on Pro Football Focus or whatever, who comes out with the salaries, the data, I think it's only like $3 to $5 million for him. That's what the going rate is for him. So I'm thinking, okay, that's worth the roll of the dice and see if he can rekindle. He has all the same reason why everybody loves Will Levis. He has those same traits as an NFL player. He can make every throw. He's mobile. So let's see what he can do. His first 5 games, he did really well. I think he went 4-1 with Carolina. Then he got injured and tried to play through it and then start making mistakes and throwing balls to the other team. You go up, get him out of there. So I just want to say, hey, let's let him compete. And guess what? Competition, you always rise your game in the NFL. There's no doubt about it. So, yeah, some people would laugh. I think he has traits. I want to see him against Dobbs and see what happens. That's what I would do. And then that's why I'd probably get fired. As a GM. But that's what I'm going, because guess what? I'm really playing, not saying it, for the next year, because I want Caleb Williams as my quarterback from USC. That's the play.
Buck Rising joins us on 104.5 The Zone. That's the play for now, presented by Two Rivers Ford. Buck, talking about Derek Carr and this meeting coming up with the Jets. Jets and Saints have been the two teams named when it comes to Derek Carr. Those have been the two. But my thing with the Saints, Tom Pelissero reported that the Saints and Raiders had the framework of a trade in place for Derek Carr, but his contract, which would have fully guaranteed him over $40 million as of 3 p.m. this past Tuesday, was an issue. Carr basically opted out of that, said, no, I want to be a free agent. So explain to us, why would the Saints still be named as a possible destination for Derek Carr if he could have had that guaranteed money in a trade going to New Orleans, and he turned it down?
Well, I can't answer that question for Derek Carr. That's a fascinating question to pose to the guy who just made that decision. It is an interesting thing to think about, because you're right. I mean, he could have done the deal. He could have kept his contract intact and could have moved forward that way. Now, if the Saints being interested in him after him already having this visit, that doesn't necessarily, I mean, they can continue to be interested in him. It's just a matter of, is he interested in playing in New Orleans now that he has his say? I mean, I'm assuming he's not going to turn down meetings at this stage, because there are a fair amount of places that do need a bridge quarterback situation like the one he's going to provide. But, yeah, I can't answer that question for him. It's a weird one.
We're on with Buck Rising from the Buck Rising Show, man. Thanks for coming on here. I guess I want to ask you this, because this is another quarterback in the backdrop for me that I'm interested in, because he can kind of not sit out a year, but be slow to play him, and that is Hendon Hooker coming out. What do you think of Hendon Hooker? Because that would be somebody who would be on my radar from the Tennessee Titans, being that we're in the situation we are, and I'm thinking potentially he could be a franchise quarterback, but he's coming off the ACL. What do you think he'll be as a NFL prospect, and what round do you think he'll go? And just a guess. I know nobody knows.
Sure, yeah. It's going to be interesting to see, Blaine, because he was down there at Senior Bowl, obviously, and I still think that even with the ACL tear, he goes higher than any of the quarterbacks who actually practiced or played at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
I'd still say he's a day 3 pick.
Ooh.
With everything being what it is right now. He seems like he's making good progress. He said the only reason that he was even wearing the brace at the Senior Bowl is because he was on his feet all day, walking around, talking to people, and making the media row rounds and things like that. He's somebody who I've talked to Greg Cosell about before, as kind of an NFL prospect, and seen some of the places where he's made progress, but still some things like he's kind of slow to work through progressions. He can get locked onto a target and and the offense is designed a certain way. He'll have to adjust to whatever system that he goes in, and he seems fully capable of that. He's physically he physically fits the part, but in a quarterback draft like this one, I'd still say he's probably a 3rd round pick at best.
Man, there you have it. Buck Rising say 3rd day for Hendon Hooker. Now, do you think, let's stay with the quarterback note, Tannehill, there's been mentions of him maybe in a trade. I don't know if those are true or not, but if they are, how much value do you think Tannehill brings to the table as far as a draft? As a trade?
Well, I think that matters very much which team we're talking about. Let's just use the Jets as an example. Yeah. I think that's of critical importance because if they go all in for Aaron Rodgers, and for whatever reason, be it Aaron Rodgers' weirdness or the Packers or whatever the case may be, like if a deal falls through there, Ryan Tannehill is the next best option that theoretically could be acquired. That's worth a lot to the Jets right now. You've got the owner publicly talking about the idea of needing to upgrade and specifically a veteran quarterback being what they're after. He would represent a better option for them, especially in an offense like that wants to run the football because he's got mobility that Derek Carr does not at this stage. So, I think for the Jets, if that's the team that we're looking at, I would think he's worth at least a 3rd round pick at this stage. I think the money that you would have to assume if you were in fact trading for that contract, which in this hypothetical they would be, they can afford that kind of hit at this point. And if I remember correctly, he was traded from the Dolphins for a 4th and a 7th.
Oh, was it?
If I remember correctly, Lucas or Brett may fact check me on that. But still, I think that was at a time when Ryan Tannehill was kind of viewed as a sunk cost, and his health was a very big question mark. And since then, all he's done is continue to kind of prove himself that he can play in the NFL, and of course, being derailed by a high ankle sprain this season.
Yeah. Well, let's just add to that before I pass it to Lucas, and let's say hypothetically in this situation, if Tannehill is traded, what are you doing for your quarterback position with the Tennessee Titans? If that thought process actually happens.
I personally would be trying to jockey to get over the Colts and the Texans to draft Bryce Young if you were going to move Tannehill. Like if you're actually going to reboot this thing, try and reset it hard. And I think that from 11 to theoretically number 1 overall is not impossible to do. The Rams did it with the Titans from 15 to 1 in that Jared Goff draft a couple of years ago. So it can be done at that point. I would use as much capital as is necessary to get up there, and I would go take the quarterback away from one of the 2 division rivals that's trying to get a franchise quarterback in this draft.
Buck Rising with us on 104.5 The Zone. Going to have to fight tooth and nail with Jim Irsay, Buck, to go up and get Bryce Young. Let's run that back. We were going to do that earlier today on the Buck Rising show. We didn't get to it. Have you heard this, Blaine? Jim Irsay talking about
he gave away who they were going to draft, right? Or something?
Maybe a little bit.
Or he was hinting.
Let's run it back, bro.
Okay, maybe.
Not hiding, no one can shy away from the fact what quarterback means in this league and how we have to look going forward where Shane and Chris really, dig into this draft and really see where you're at. Do you stay put? Do you trade up? There's many things you can do. They took Jalen in the 2nd round. So,
trade back.
Yeah, trade back. So, he likes picks.
That'll be a Twitter freaking quote.
He likes picks. Although the Alabama guy doesn't look bad, I tell you. But it'll be exciting, and I think that shows that we have talent here. Those games, so we're looking forward to Shane really coming in and utilizing that talent.
Buck, the way Chris Ballard's head snapped around looking at Jim Irsay when he said that, it was almost like they were jockeying in front of the media where Ballard half joking, like, yeah, Trey backs, give me the picks. And Irsay's like, no, I like the Bama kid.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah, that's exactly what he did. And that's why anything that happens without Jim Irsay being involved with the Colts is nonsense, because he's just going to do what he wants. Like, he's just it's great. I love it. It's great theater. It would drive a general manager crazy, but frankly, that general manager is lucky to still have his job. So I think Chris Ballard just kind of got to eat it for a little while.
Oh, we're on with Buck Rising from the Buck Rising Show. I haven't had the chance to ask you, I know before we let you go, is your thoughts on the Super Bowl and who's going to be back? Who's your favorite? Kansas City, I'm assuming, but I could be wrong.
Give us a prediction, Buck.
Man, I'm bleep you, Lucas. I think as long as that team has that $500 million quarterback behind them, I think that Kansas City should be. I mean, there'll be at some point where another team kind of like shows itself to be somewhat their equal or something like that. But everybody was still picking Kansas City to win that division this year. As long as they have Mahomes, they should be considered a favorite.
So what were your thoughts on the Super Bowl? Who'd you pick?
I picked the Eagles. I still have
Me
to paint
too.
my face like an eagle. I was hoping people would forget that, but Blaine, thank you for.
Well, I did
allowing me
too.
to-
So I thought the better team was win, but hey, man, it's hard to bet against my homies, huh? He's magical.
Yeah, but you're smarter than me, Blaine. You did not volunteer to paint your face like an eagle if the Eagles lost, so I still have to do that.
You did that?
He did do that.
Oh, I didn't see. Where's that over social media? Where's the paint?
Not
Painted
yet,
face?
Blaine. It's coming.
Oh my! Watch this. A painted eagle face with a beard. Oh my! There's no eagles with
You see
beards.
those
How
decorated?
do eagles have a beard, man.
Those are all over Lincoln Financial Field on game days. It's not
I
that
was going to say,
unusual.
Jason Kelsey's got a nice beard. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, it's laid, man. Yeah, you're on the same level as Kelsey with the beard, man. Well groomed.
Buck Rising with us. Buck, enjoy your first football-free weekend of 2023. What are you going to do with yourself?
I'm going to take a nap.
What's up? You sounding like you're an old man now, man.
That's how I feel at that. I just want to curl up in a ball at the end of every football season and just sleep for a little while, Blaine. But yeah, no, we've got to. I'm going to take it. I'm going to take advantage of a long weekend. I'm going to let you be me on Monday, and I'm sure that will not lead to any professional problems for me down the road.
Yeah, Brian and I holding down the fort on Monday. What could go wrong?
Okay.
Enjoy the weekend, Buck. See you soon, man.
True, man. Don't party too hard.
Thanks, Blaine. See you, boy.
Buck Rising with us on 104.5 The Zone. Calling all golf fans. Time to gear up for golf season with the Nashville Predators on February 28th. Be caller number 5 now to win tickets to see the Preds take on the Pittsburgh Penguins in Smashville. 615-737-1045. For more info or to purchase tickets, visit NashvillePredators.com/tickets and don't miss out. Speaking of golf, we'll get a quick update on the Genesis Invitational. Tiger might be in danger here. We'll call her shot on the way out as well. It's Blaine and Mickey on a Friday, 104.5 The Zone.
teams, Coach Howard?
Tiger came in a little hot, but he might be going out cold to this thing.
Oh, my.
Genesis Invitational, second round, in full swing. Lucas Panzica, Blaine Bishop with you for the next few minutes. About a caller shot on the way out for the weekend. Brett Batchelor, our producer. Brett, is Tiger about to miss the cut here?
There's a very good chance Tiger misses the cut. He came in pretty good, had a good front nine today, and then just kind of lost it on his back nine bogeys on 8 and 9. If you weren't able to see it on 9, missed the fairway to the right. All he had to do was hit the green 2-putt. Probably would be playing this weekend. Hit a good approach shot, and even Tiger thought he was going to hit the green. Came up short in the bunker, wasn't able to get up and down. His par putt or his par chip actually lipped out. So based on what the afternoon wave does, if they waver a little bit, Tiger could make the cut, but right now it's looking like he's not going to be playing this weekend.
Keith Mitchell and Colin Morikawa tied for the lead, each at 9 under at the Genesis Invitational. Time to call your shot, 615-737-1045. Give us your prediction for the weekend. College baseball starts tonight. Tennessee and Vanderbilt will be in action. College basketball tomorrow. Vandy at home. Tennessee in Lexington. Blaine, who you got?
Oh, who I got? I'm not picking one of those teams, but I'm going to say Tiger Woods is not going to make the cut.
That's your shot?
I don't think he's going to make the cut. I naturally, Tennessee's going to beat Kentucky. So I don't really going to put out a score there, but I think they will. Kentucky just doesn't look like the normal Kentucky. Usually they find and figure things out by the end of the season. It doesn't look like it to me. I don't like what I see. They're too inconsistent, but we'll see.
You don't want to put any face paint on the line for either one of those?
What's the line?
Like Buck did? No, I don't know. I don't know what the line. I don't think there is one out yet for Tennessee, Kentucky in Lexington. But so you're saying Tennessee wins in Rupp and Tiger does not make the cut.
Yeah, that was my Mm-hmm.
Brett?
So Tennessee baseball starts tonight.
Yes.
First pitch is going to be on MLB Network for those who are wanting to watch. Arizona tonight, Grand Canyon tomorrow, UC San Diego on Sunday. Ballers are going to sweep opening weekend, start the year 3-0.
Yeah, big weekend for both Tennessee and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt in Arlington playing. Tennessee, I remember, started the season in Texas. I think it was in Houston at Minute Maid Park last year. But Vanderbilt playing TCU today, Oklahoma State tomorrow, Texas Sunday. So kind of a gauntlet there for Vanderbilt. And then Tennessee has UC San Diego
on Sunday.
On Sunday.
Yep. Grand Canyon
Canyon tomorrow. And then today against Arizona. Both preseason top 10 teams. Tennessee, the coaches pick to win the SEC East in 2023. I can't believe baseball season is about to be in full swing, at least on the college level. I'm going to give it a double shot. I'm going to go college.
That's how you put it down, huh? Double shot, huh?
I'm going to keep it in Nashville. A Nashville double shot on this Friday, like a lot of people I'm sure will be doing. I'm going to say tomorrow night Vanderbilt stays hot. Vanderbilt beats Auburn at home. They found something here.
I may go to this game, man.
They found something here with Jerry Stackhouse in this stretch run. Joe Hunk not happy with me.
Yeah, it's Auburn.
Look, I don't know. I just don't know who Auburn is, man. I don't know who Auburn is right now. They are one of the most inconsistent teams in the league over the course of these last few weeks. I don't know if Bruce Pearl knows what's going on with this team right now. Jerry Stackhouse does. Liam Robbins is red hot.
Liam Robbins is,
he's scoring.
He's unstoppable.
He's scoring
3 points. He's in the post. Hey, man.
He's pulling down rebounds. He's blocking shots.
He's a man-child.
Liam Robbins, that's been the deal for Vanderbilt all year. Last season, they got hot at the end. They go on that NIT run to the quarterfinals. Scottie Pippen Jr. just has the best stretch of his career. They never found that guy this season until Liam Robbins woke up against Florida a couple weeks ago, and he's continued that momentum since then. I'm going to say Vanderbilt wins the 7:30 tip-off, either fifth straight win. But I agree with Blake Lovell. They can't get into the tournament. You'd probably have to win out. I don't see that happening for this Vanderbilt team, but they're certainly playing their best basketball right now. Second part of that double shot, I think Belmont goes up and avenges the earlier season loss against Drake. I think Belmont picks up their 20th win of the season. The Missouri Valley Conference is fascinating right now. The MVC standings are a complete logjam at the top. Belmont 1 game back as you look at Drake and Bradley at 13-4 in conference play. Southern Illinois, Indiana State, and Belmont all sitting there 1 game back of the conference lead. So huge game for the Belmont Bruins. You can watch that on CBS Sports Network. 3 p.m. tip-off on Sunday.
Cool.
Keep it Nashville Hoops. Gets it done over the weekend.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go to the Vandy game, man. Gonna be rocking.
Go create some memorial magic up there tomorrow night.
Yeah, I'd like to see him do well. Make it interesting, especially with Bruce Pearl. Yeah.
Enjoy your first football-free weekend of 2023.
Oh my, I don't know what I'm doing myself.
College baseball tonight, college basketball tomorrow and Sunday. You're off on Monday.
No, I'm not.
Oh, you're here Monday. You're here with Joe Hunk on Monday.
Yes,
that's
I am.
right.
You know, Mickey's off. Yeah, your guy.
Hunk and the Hitman from 1 to 3 on 104.5 The Zone.
H&H.
I'll be on with Rhett Bryan 10 to 1. We will talk to you then on President's Day. Until then, enjoy the long weekend.
In the meantime.
In between time. Peace.